The bill for an act to amend the Federal Universities of Agriculture Act to establish the Federal University of Agriculture Abak, Akwa Ibom State, and for related matters 2025. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 11 December 2024. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, this bill seeks to establish the proposed university in Abak, Akwa Ibom State, an agrarian community notable for the production of various agricultural produce. As such, the university will provide the enabling environment for robust agricultural practice as well as boost agricultural production in the country. Agriculture, being one of the most predominant means is livelihood in the country, agriculture being one of the most predominant means of livelihood in the country, has contributed immensely to the nation's GDP. Demands for agricultural products are rising rapidly due to unprecedented rise in population. Therefore, establishment of specialized universities as contemplated by this bill is sacrosanct, as it will provide the platform for research and innovations, as well as acquisition of the requisite educational skills to accelerate agricultural growth. The objectives of this bill, among others, are to encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction, to develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to the award of certificates, first degrees, postgraduate research, diploma, and higher degrees, with emphasis on planning, developmental, and adaptive skills in agriculture and environmental disciplines. To produce socially mature agriculturists with capabilities not only to understand the agricultural need of Nigeria as a nation, but also to exploit existing agro-infrastructure and improve on it to develop new ones, and to undertake any other activities that is appropriate for a University of Agriculture of the highest standards. On this note, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I respectfully commend this bill for your kind support with a view to fast-tracking the legislative processes that will lead to its expeditious passage by the National Assembly. I thank you all, and I want to say that in line with our Order 76.3, the compendium of financial implication is hereby attached. Once again, I thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Thank you for this opportunity to make my contribution to this debate. Mr. President, looking at this bill, it is a very, very straightforward bill. And Mr. President, it also synchronizes with the desire of government to diversify our economy. And most part of this country, including this part that is considered for the location of this university, is agrarian. And I think that also combining it with the fact that it's also an area that is afflicted most times with these environmental hazards, it is appropriate and germane at this point to see the situation, the institution there. And so I encourage my colleagues to support this bill to be read a second time so that we can move on with it and assure the establishment of this institution. I so second and support, Mr. President.
Thank you. This is Senator Ningi.
Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central, Bauchi State. Mr. President, this is a very timely bill that underscores the importance of agriculture, particularly in the Niger Delta area. Mr. President, even though our nation is an oil-producing nation, but still an agrarian nation in perspective. Nowhere in this country does agriculture not flourish, and therefore it is important to have a specialized unit that deals with specialized causes, particularly agriculture. Over the years, Mr. President, there seems to have been a unanimity that everything oil is in the Niger Delta, and therefore anything agriculture is not in the Niger Delta. That is false. That's a very false narrative. We travel across the crannies of the Niger Delta, and we have seen agriculture, we have seen farmers all across the Niger Delta states. So it is important for all of us to appreciate that what is good for the gander is good for the goose. Therefore, agriculture in Abak, a quiet town in Akwa Ibom, with a specialized discipline, will attract attention all across the Niger Delta, whereby its kids and kin will be able to study agriculture, will be able to become agricultural farmers, and will be able also to look across the nation and become what they want to become. Therefore, when you establish a university of this nature and people get the best out of the agriculture facility, then you are expanding their horizon, you are expanding their perspective, you are giving them options. It is not every one of them or every one of us that will play a role in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. And therefore, there are people who inherently do not wish to be associated with oil and gas, but if you don't create option for them, you let them with no option but just stay to remain idle. And therefore, when you establish agriculture with specialized units in Niger Delta, you are encouraging people and you are also bringing people to unite. You are now asking people from all over the country to also apply to this university, and when they apply, they come back, and that will bring also an enhanced unity that is much needed, especially at this time of our history. I therefore support this move, and I encourage my colleagues, members of the Senate, to just do so for so many reasons outlined by the mover of the nation, the motion, the seconder, and some of us that have also spoken about this motion, this bill. So it's important that we see it, that is apt, it's timely, and therefore it's important that we give it the Nigerian recognition, because this is a Nigerian project. It's not Akwa Ibom, it's not Abak, it's a Nigerian project that we must all support. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Mr. President.
The same Senator Adams Oshiomhole.
Not in Ibadan, that was the capital of Western Nigeria. And I can go on and on and on. So for me, we have two things we must consider in location of institutions of any type. The need to ensure consciously that we achieve even development that are not concentrated in the 36 state capitals. The benefit of this is that people who are clamoring for more states need to be reassured that every part of Nigeria, and indeed every part of a state, can and should benefit from federal presence and state presence without necessarily being state capital. And so the idea of starting a university in Abak, which has been described rightly as an agrarian community, for me, it fits into our responsibility as a national Senate to ensure that institutions are located in rural communities. That way, we will halt rural-urban drift, because you can find life outside the state capital, and we achieve, as I said earlier,
the whole commitment to evil development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, regardless of whether or not your area is a state capital. It bears just to add that those who are speaking about the need to refocus on agriculture, for me, the benefit of that is that a lot of our young people need to know that to be a farmer is not to be a primitive guy. That indeed farming is one of the most elegant professions. So those statements will be made by establishing institutions such as this. And therefore I join those who have spoken to say that this bill, this University of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at Abak is justified, and I urge my colleagues to support that it goes through or pass through the second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I rise to give my support for the creation or establishment of University of Agriculture at Abak in Akwa Ibom State, as ably moved. Mr. President, this bill seeks to satisfy two cardinal sectors of the budget. It tries to promote education, which occupies the third position in the budget. A country that does not educate itself is a country that is bound it's bound to be doomed. A country that cannot feed itself is also no country. And so this bill tends to satisfy these two conditions, these two areas of very important desires in the country. When we established this school, this university, to also help to check capital flight, many of our students who leave the country for other places to study do so because of lack of admission. A lot of our students are going to even Ghana, Benin Republic and others because we didn't have enough spaces for them. Now with the establishment of this university, to provide more opportunity for students to study here in Nigeria and deserve money in our economy. Mr. President, I rise to give support to this bill. I want the bill to go for the second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Representing Bayelsa Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, the need for the establishment of an agricultural institution in Akwa Ibom State, Abak in particular, cannot be overemphasized. Mr. President, sir, all over the world, when there are observations of poverty and unemployment, leaders choose to take the course of engaging the members of that society in agriculture. And agriculture, as all of us know, is the major employer of labor. It has been so observed also in China when Chairman Mao came up to become president. He saw the lacuna. He saw what was wrong, the reasons why there was unemployment and poverty in the land. In 1893, when he became the president, up to 1976, he came up with a policy of taking the people back to agriculture. And that drive was not just to take the people to agriculture, but that drive was to bring about industrialization and also to tackle the issues of economy and unemployment. Today Nigeria That is where all of us leaders, from Mr. President to the Senate and to every other Nigerian, ought to have thought about. And that is why establishing a University of Science and Technology, agriculture, for me is a route and a road to ensure that we train our youths to take over the agricultural space and to ensure that technology is also brought in to the area of agriculture, instead of just depending and relying on our subsistence systems of farming. And that is why I and my constituency, with all the emphasis, are here to support and second and whatever over this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Close to Abak, where the proper university is to be sited, represents Akwa Ibom South here in the Senate. I trust that there is considerable convergence of thoughts that this bill is well framed. It has been well canvassed about the intervening role of agriculture in our national matrix. But beyond that, the 10th Senate has created a tapestry, it's created some watershed about our commitment to education. I think this is very important. I attended a session here some time ago where concerns were raised about what was seen as the sprout of universities in Nigeria. And I disagreed readily. We've not even had enough. We need more universities in Nigeria. And government has to meet up with the challenge of broadening access to education. The proposed university is to be sited in Abak. Well, I thank my colleagues for their framing Abak, but it's actually Abak. When I look at them there, and Zam, our distinguished colleagues here, and they lay claim to Benue, being the food basket of Nigeria, sometimes I shake my head. I nod my head too, because Abak, Ika, Itemekbo, by the way I come from, and the adjoining belts forms a very major food basket for this country. Against this backdrop, citing a university for agriculture in Abak is well timed, quite commendable, and it clearly addresses the concerns for agriculture in Nigeria. Maybe as an addition, this is one project I must confess that is also very dear to our uncommon Senate President, because it sits directly within his central district. But the point remains, and this point must be noted, that one of the persuading factors for this government, and indeed for the 10th Senate, has been our attitude to education. There could be no better legacy, no better milestone, no better testimony than advancing the flanks of education. So today, a very important opportunity has been presented for us to sustain the tempo of what we have come to identify as a major intervention from the Senate, which is our commitment to broadening access to education. And this is not just a facet, it has to do with agriculture. It is specialized. So, on behalf of the home fronts, but this touches on the home front that I represent here, I'm very excited about the framing, the content, and indeed the timing of this bill. I think this intervention will create a quantum leap for us as a country.
and it will make those in Benue to give Akwa Ibom even more respect, because they will appreciate that what Benue can do, Akwa Ibom can do even better in terms of food production. So, on behalf of Akwa Ibom South, and indeed the people of Akwa Ibom State that I speak for, on this particular occasion, I align strongly with the current of thought that this bill is well framed, well presented, and indeed it will be a game changer for us as a country. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Disruptive. The Abak is an agrarian community, but it's a federal constituency. The entirety of the federal constituency contributed a lot to agriculture in the First Republic. In fact, it was from this Abak that they took the first seed from there to go and develop in Malaysia what we now have as farm produce in commercial quantity in Malaysia. So going back to agriculture is a welcome development for the nation. But maybe when we go for a public hearing, I'll be able to know the correct location that this should be cited, because just by the Abak itself is an Institute of Agriculture which was established in the 50s and then modernized by my administration when I was a governor, with well over 80 structures on ground which could be used to take off. But that would mean approaching the state government to be able to grant that concession. That is at a place called Oruwanam, which is still within the area of the Abak, and that can take off very easily. They have sample farms, they have everything. He had operated for 33 years as Institute of Agriculture. So that's where my mind is going into, but that can be discussed at the public hearing when the communities will come, and then the government will be able to lend a voice to enrich the debate. So let me plead with our colleagues so that we cut it short, and then we still have ongoing budget defense, and even the Deputy Senate President is currently representing me at the Afrexim stroke King's College launching of the cardio and hematology hospital here in Abuja, first of its kind in Africa, and that's why some of the senators are not here. Senator Suko and a lot of them are there now. So we may need to finish quickly to go and brush up the budget for possible presentation tomorrow and next. So those who support that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate. The bill for an act to amend the Federal Universities of Agricultural Act in order to establish the Federal University of Agriculture Abak in Akwa Ibom State and for related matters 2025. SBA 675, second reading taken. The bill is now referred to the Committee on Agricultural Colleges and Institutions to report back to the Senate within 21 days.